It's been 2 months since we last spoke to you. You've been featured on BBC Radio Bristol, BBC London, and had an interview with The Guardian. At this point of filming, you have 14,300 followers on Instagram, compared to only 100 when we previously spoke to you. It's clear the launch has been a hit. You also oversee enough social media. Has the online reaction been similar to the in-person feedback you've had?
That's a really interesting question. I mean, the main reaction from people is just relief, honestly, that something like this now exists, and you don't even need to explain the problem to anyone. Like normally when you do something new, there's explaining the problem, then explaining the solution, but we're finding that we literally just say to people what we're doing. This is a DNA kit. We hope you never have to use it. We hope it works as a deterrent. And everyone just says, oh my God, that is brilliant. How has it taken until now to have something like this? And that is the same across, whether it's in person with our paddling pool, walking around at night, whether it's on Instagram and people from India and Australia and America saying, why isn't this in our countries? We want it here now. I mean, the Instagram has been explosive, and TikTok as well, and that's partly thanks to Bristol students and how the Bristol students have just taken this and seen it as something that they really, really want to get behind, because that success locally is what's driven it to literally every corner of the globe. And also on the social media, an amazing ambassador called Cara is really helping out there and has been making such great content, and I think the content has been viewed over 10 million times now, which is messages of solidarity, deterrence, empowerment on a topic that was previously hidden and kind of taboo. I think the reaction from men actually has particularly struck me, because I wasn't sure what the reaction from male students was going to be. I was kind of concerned in some ways. I really didn't want this to come across like an angry feminist thing, because it's something that takes men and women to solve, and also men can be survivors of rape too. So I've been blown away personally by the level of allyship and solidarity that male students have chosen to proactively take, and it is just as many men coming and getting kits so that they can go and say to their friends, I know what to do and I'm an ally. And so many students have come and said, I've gone home and my male flatmates are all sat around the table talking about consent, and that wouldn't have happened without the presence of enough. So that's meant a lot.
Do you have any aspirations to collaborate with any brands or journalists to keep spreading the message of enough?
Yeah, there's loads of that coming. Lots of media pieces coming up. We hope to work with as many brands, especially Mission Line ones, as possible. Podcasts, anything that is going to help get the message out, because the more people that know about this, the more people that are supported, the more society stands behind survivors and not perpetrators, and also the more the deterrence is created, because the really powerful thing about Enough is that it says we are not standing for this anymore, we're not letting people get away with this, and there are new forms of justice beyond criminal justice.
Some specific things that you remember, just like anecdotes from the Enough launch?
On the third day of launching, in our launch week at UAB, one student came up to us and she told us that she had actually used a kit on the first day that we gave them out, and she said it wasn't the first time that this has happened to her, but it's the first time that she felt like she could do something where she felt control and she felt validated. And just hearing that from someone so early on, it's so awful that this happens to people, but hearing that we've been able to support people, even just helping one person makes it all worth it. And last night we were walking around the area near Brass Pig, and we kind of go around and we have wristbands that we put on people, and it's got our website and Instagram, and the idea is we don't even need to tell them that much at night. We just say, have a wristband, have a look in the morning what we're doing. We're trying to end sexual violence in Bristol. And one girl came running up to us and she said, oh my God, all of the stories, the Instagram stories you put up of people's reports, they mean so much, because it's finally revealing the nuance of the topic to people, and society are faced with the reality of rape rather than thinking it is girls asking for it and all of the rape myths about it being a stranger in a dark alleyway. And she said, thank you for doing that, because it's very, very hard to force people to engage with that reality. But the way that you're doing it through social media is creating a culture where people understand the reality of this and empathise and then support survivors. And also actually it's the local community, their response to the launch has been really, really incredible and inspiring. We've got 30 safe spaces around the city, and those are cafes, bars, pubs where anyone can go in, student, member of the community as well, goes in and says, "Can I have a hot orange please?" And that means they get pasta kit completely free, no questions asked. They have posters up saying "We stand with survivors, we believe in a future without rape." And to have that level of community support behind students just sends a message across the whole city that we've quite literally had enough of this and we're not letting it happen anymore.
Why do you think launching enough specifically within a university has been beneficial?
Sadly, it's where we're needed most at first. So there's roughly kind of 3 blocks of time. A third of rapes happen before university, a third at university, and then a third after. So it's kind of the highest concentration in those 3 or 4 years. Also, the most important thing is creating deterrence. So if you were within a community, like a student community where students interacting far more than in everyday life, they see each other so much, the word of mouth is so powerful, starting somewhere where people are talking about something to that extent, and also at the point in your life when you're treated at last like an adult, and so it's kind of like you can stand up for the things you believe in and really get behind them. And that momentum when doing something new, especially in a sadly taboo topic, it's so important. And the student ambassadors that have been on the team have just been instrumental in, again, creating that awareness across campus, and this being something that students are giving to each other to support each other. And I think people assume I'm a student as well. So it's basically just comes across like, we are students here to help other students and trying to end this.
A huge part of Enough is not just the actual kits, but also the recovery services you provide to victims. Could you briefly explain what you provide with Dr. Maisie and the response you've had to it after the launch?
Recovery is so important so early. 94% of survivors today suffer symptoms of PTSD in the first 2 weeks. It goes down to about half in about 3 months, but it's still such a huge number of people that could be helped far more quickly. So some people choose to get therapy, but more often than not that happens years down the line. It's very expensive. You are on a waiting list, you might move cities, and then you graduate and you don't live there anymore, you can't access it. So people are really struggling to get the support that they need and deserve. So we've worked with Dr. Maisie Johnston, who has a PhD and has written her thesis in recovery after sexual violence. And the starting point for Enough was speaking to students, speaking to survivors, predominantly at Bristol, to work out why they don't report, what they did do, how they feel, and what they would want from a form of reporting, a form of recovery. And so that was the input for Enough, and that was also the input for the recovery tools, along with speaking to numerous experts to understand what the kind of emerging research was on how to best help people. So based on that, we've created 3 things. The first is therapy-style videos. It's been proven that it's just as effective to watch an online episode with a therapist as going and having a one-to-one session, which is huge because you can help an unlimited number of people from just one piece of content, and you can help them far sooner. So we have worked with focus groups to work out what are the top topics that people want answers on, and we produce more content every week, most days every week. And there's things like Why Did I?, which is explaining trauma response and fight, flight, freeze and fawn, because more often than not people think that their body reaction is them saying what they personally wanted or didn't want, and then there's so much shame attached to that. So we help people unravel that and make sense of it, because the more you understand, the more empowered you are in your own recovery. The next part is our online community. We've created, I didn't know this was possible, but you can basically create your own social network. and you brand it however you want and you set it up however you want with different features. We've created a social network purely for survivors and their friends and family, and that is facilitated by Dr. Maisie, and she puts advice on there, resources, other people in the community can contribute. There's kind of community ambassadors that we've got, and they put different discussion prompts on each week. And the research behind that is that group recovery can be just as effective, if not more effective, as individual recovery. You just need to be able to find the group. And we've learnt from people that it's really hard to do that, really hard to find people that relate. Sometimes you don't want to actually talk to your direct friends because you don't want to be associated with it. So being able to go online and have that safe space where you can give someone else advice in a way that it's a little bit like giving your past self advice in a way that you couldn't before. It's so effective for someone's individual recovery. And then the last part is we know that it's really, really hard to have conversations with friends and family and the people that really, the conversations that matter most. If you go and speak to a parent and you don't know how much they know about the topic, they're likely to ask you questions, and those questions can convey doubt instead of curiosity, and both sides kind of get upset with each other, and it's not helpful to someone, it's not validating. So we've written guides and created videos for both sides of that, and before having the conversation, if you wanted to, you could send that video to the person or send the guide and say, I've got something really important I want to talk to you about, but it's just important to me that you read this and know what I'm talking about first. And that's still a scary thing in itself to initiate, but it just makes that next conversation easier. So those things, those recovery tools, they're all designed to be early intervention tools. You can use them whenever you want. We've heard that people watch the videos just while waiting for their bus stop as well. We know that TikTok therapy is becoming more of a thing as well, so we're creating increasingly shorter videos, so kind of 1 minute snapshots of different recovery topics. People think that recovery is such a heavy topic and almost like this box that they don't want to open, but just doing things little and often that help make you stronger. And it's not about fixing you, it's about helping you be stronger than when you even started and giving you life lessons that you take through the rest of your life and little tactics. And so by just putting those into people's Instagram feeds and TikTok feeds, it's a way of having that knowledge just on an easily accessible daily basis.
We see the rise of Trump, Farage blasting anti-abortion rhetoric, and with this, why do you think enough is important in today's political age?
For that to have happened, we've had to become completely desensitised to the topic, which is just disgusting as a society that we have someone who is a rapist leading America. And so things like that and things like Giselle Pellico in the news, that is just showing to people that this has become such a disgusting level in society. It's become intolerable. And with Giselle Pellico and the political side of that, so many people who didn't know about the topic before because they chose to keep it out of sight and out of mind, they have been confronted with it now, and people are saying to me, oh, it's what you're doing is so topical now. And I say, it's always been topical, it's just you've chosen not to engage with this, you've chosen to ignore it. And I think it being so awful is what makes it so hard to ignore for people now. And I think, and I hope, people are paying more attention to microaggressions too, because Dominique Pellico wouldn't have been found if it wasn't for a microaggression. And I think we've become just blind to microaggressions, and people don't want to call them out because it's uncomfortable and it's awkward, and if you don't think about it in the moment, then the moment's gone and then it makes you look bad because you didn't do it sooner. But I hope that as a society people now start to have more courage to call those things out, because you don't know what else they're doing or what they might go on to do.
What are some things that have surprised you in launching Enough? Did anything specifically happen that you didn't expect?
We've had such phenomenal support on a societal, individual level, and people wanting the kits for them and their friends. The thing that has surprised me is the institutions on the whole have been slower. So I thought that this would be an amazing opportunity for universities to be on the front foot and solve this issue. And for some of them it is, and they see it in that way and embrace it, and they say, this is such a brilliant well-being tool and a chance for us to solve the problem. We want to work with you to provide that, and we're having lots of those conversations at the moment. But there are also some which sadly aren't seeing it in that way and see it as kind of unearthing the problem that they want to avoid. And it's got to the point where it's unavoidable, and every single person at university knows how awful it is. And so I just hope that it doesn't take those universities too long to realise this is an opportunity for them to be able to help.
Are you in collaboration with Bristol University?
I wish we were, because it would mean we wouldn't have to stand outside in the cold with the paddling pool. We'd be inside the student union. But no. When we launched this, we wrote to them and said, this is what we're doing. We don't expect that you're going to be able to endorse this because it's a new approach and we don't have any proven impact yet, but we hope when we do, we'll be able to work with you. So we'll see if that happens. We're still open to working with them. We still really hope that we can, because ultimately that's going to be what leads to more access and awareness for students.
What are your plans for the future? Do you plan to expand this incentive towards other universities, or do you plan to keep the focus on Bristol for the moment?
We're doing both. So we're going to other universities. I'm going to one next Wednesday, a small performing arts college university in Chester. We're speaking to other universities in other cities too. So we'll be doing that. We also have a proper Bristol team that is going to be keeping going with this, student ambassadors, and that is set up so that the Bristol momentum very much keeps going for the rest of the year, so that people can get a kit and can get support if they want it. And then beyond that, I hope to do more fun things that we've kind of become associated with in Bristol. Like, I would love to get an orange camper van and drive that round and do a road trip. You said about brand partnerships. If any brands like VW wanted to donate an orange camper, then we'd love to do that. But yeah, I mean, it's just the beginning, and that's so exciting. We've only really been around for 12 weeks, and we're already getting requests from every single country in the world to come there. So I think it's just going to be exciting to see where we go next.
We spoke about this briefly in our other interview, but especially with this type of product, there will be controversy and backlash. How would you respond to comments that people may see Enough as offensive, as they could be seen as commercialising rape kits?
Enough is not for profit. Neither Tom or I have a salary. We both left our jobs to be able to do this. We're both using savings to live and do this at the moment because we believe it's so needed. It's the sort of thing that you have to prove to the world the change that's needed before the world accepts it and starts paying for it. So we do need money to keep this going. We both do need money as well to be able to live and keep it sustainable. But there is nothing financial motivating this.
Recently, after the success of your interview with Zoe Williams in The Guardian article comprised of letters have been published. How would you respond to these quotes? So Tana Adkin writes, "Self-swabbing will damage the chances the criminal justice system has for bringing sexual predators to justice."
It's so disappointing to see those letters, honestly, because they're completely missing the point. We're not saying to anyone that they shouldn't go to criminal justice or a sexual assault referral centre, and actually that's one of the first lines in our reporting page, is if you're considering either of those, you should do that first. Enough is for people who would not otherwise be reporting, which is 90% of students and 83% of women nationally. This is not trying to take anyone away from the police or a sexual assault referral centre, but it's also not anyone's place to ever say what a survivor should do after rape. And we can see, and we know in the media, it's commented on a lot, how survivors are let down by the existing systems and how they are desperate for something new. And we do need something new because we need to reveal the scale of the problem if we're going to have a chance of ending it. It's also interesting to know with the admissibility, anything that is reliable and relevant can be admissible. And yes, this will be scrutinised more than evidence collected by the police, but it's still better than nothing. And it's also accompanied by a timestamped testimony that you write on the platform as soon as you self-swab. And so that, plus the frozen DNA from the moment it happened, can only be of support. Many people don't realise as well that 66% of people who report to the police do so at least a week after it's happened. So there's no chance of forensic evidence collection anyway. So this will help more people than not who do want to go to the police. And then another important thing is that when you self-test, you get results within 48 hours. You were told, yes, there are 2 DNA profiles found in or on your body and the gender of those DNA profiles. If you go to the police or a sexual assault referral centre, you very rarely ever get the results of that analysis. So you go through that often quite traumatising and interrogative exam, and then you're not given the results because the only reason they want the results is if it gets to court and if in court the perpetrator denies that sex even happened, which is so rare because the main line of defence is actually, oh yeah, we had sex but it was consensual. The current system depends on survivors reporting and telling them they have to use criminal justice or have to go to a sexual assault referral centre, otherwise there's no options. Our approach is actually to give society a way of standing behind survivors, showing solidarity, showing allyship, owning kits to create the deterrent. The people that share anecdotes of what's happened to them, we publicise those to help people understand the reality of being a rape survivor and the recovery process as well. That provides validation for people, but again, it creates deterrence. So, of course, education is so important, and part of what we're doing is educating people, but it's not enough to simply say, we'll do a PSHE session and leave it at that.
Thank you so much for speaking to us, Katie.
Thank you, and thanks also to all Bristol students that have supported enough and helped each other by helping create awareness and deterrence.